Hey, before you watch this thing, hit subscribe, would you? Guys, my guest today, this is the Blocks Podcast, by the way, Neal Brennan. My guest today is a filmmaker and writer and producer, and he's done the following movies. He did Thank You for Smoking, he wrote it and directed it. Juno wrote and directed it. Up in the Air. Directed it, didn't write it. Diablo Cody wrote it. Thanks. Shame on me. Up in the Air, co-wrote and directed it. Young Adult, Diablo Cody wrote that. You directed it. Labor Day, Men, Women, and Children, Tully, The Front Runner. Then he did Ghostbusters, Afterlife, co-wrote and directed, and the new Saturday Night movie, co-wrote and directed. Shot it a couple months ago, and it's out already somehow.
You know what's funny is having watched filmmakers my whole life, where when someone goes over their filmography and you see where they're like, gotta speed through this section.
No, I know. Well, that's what, so looking at, so when I think of you, I just go, fucking Up in the Air, Juno. And then I saw you were doing Ghostbusters and I was like, all right, good.
Right.
And then I look on your IMDb and it's like 10 years between those things. Now, you live every one of those days.
Yes.
But as someone who's just a fan and aware of you, I'm like, Jason's doing good somewhere.
This is, I mean, you've already gotten into a block that I probably didn't even give you, which is, I think everybody is judging themselves on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. At the end of the day, your obituary goes, they did these three things.
Yep, I did Chappelle Show and a bunch of Netflix specials. There's a 15-year gap.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a 10, 12-year gap, but like,
And people are going, Neal's lights out.
Yeah. You know? This guy never misses, almost always misses. But yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like, people, that guy's a fucking killer. Meanwhile, I'm like, I bombed yesterday, the day before.
If I could live within the psyche of the people who hate me, that would be awesome.
Well, I have some good and bad news for you. You do. The people that hate you are the people that are thinking about you every day, going like, it's been a while. It's been a while. I don't know, man. You might have lost it. You got to do Ghostbusters. Ooh, that you finally broke open that piggy bank.
Wait a second.
Ooh.
Oh, that's good. Wait, do you think that it is the people who are fond of you or the people who hate you who think you are doing better or worse?
The people that are fond of you.
Think you
are doing good. The people that hate you are thinking about are the ones who are hate watching your stuff and looking at your box office. And
can I push back?
Please.
There's a version where the people who hate you are the ones who are upset because they think you're actually doing good. And it's the people who are fond of you who are nervous for you if they're thinking, oh, maybe that one didn't do quite as good.
Yeah.
I really love them. I want them to do great.
But I also think the people that like you and know you or are fans of you, like, know, I don't know what the worry is about, but like they know I was aware you could do a studio movie whenever you wanted. Just like, I just knew you did Juno, Up in the Air, Young Adult, and was like, yeah, he's crushing it. And it's, I assume, looking at the IMDb, it was almost like watching showbiz change. Meaning it's like, well, now you're in the franchise world. Even Saturday Night's kind of a franchise movie.
That's interesting.
In a weird way. Like, you're just going, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, I guess it's either the budget's either going to be $500,000 or $50 million.
It wasn't the psyche. I mean, I can give you the logic.
Please.
A bit behind the choices, because up until Ghostbusters, every film I made was for personal reasons. You know, the moment I decided to become a director is when I discovered.
But there was upside. You were making money on these movies, right?
By accident.
Right, but whether money's money, they don't.
No, but I mean, we go and make Juno, and I've just made Thank You for Smoking, which was a film festival hit, and actually went into theaters and did a little bit of money, and then we go and
you make a little something.
I mean, no, I made Writers Guild scale and Directors Guild scale. And
so
that's
$80,000, $90,000.
I'm not gonna. Come on.
Look it up.
Why would I do that? Why?
Because people, everyone in LA makes $1 million in people's minds. I think in the psyche.
No,
thing.
I guess.
You made $1 million. No, you didn't.
I'm actually happy you brought it up this way, because what we're talking about two different things, right? Which is, one is like, how much are they paying you personally to do something, but also more importantly, how much are they giving you to make something with? Which is
right.
oddly way more important
right.
to me.
Your the budget of the thing versus your salary.
Born the son of the director of Ghostbusters. I've never stopped and thought, oh, what are they going to pay me to make this independent film? What I've thought about is, will I have the control and the ability to make the movie? And when I go to make Juno, we're making this, $7 million teen pregnancy comedy starring actors that people generally don't know, except for Jennifer Garner. And then it goes and makes $200 million. And it makes people think that I know something that I don't. And it makes people think that somehow the films I make are going to make hundreds of millions of dollars, which they're not.
Right.
And it's more confusing.
Were you aware of that? Because that's the thing. It's like, that can happen where people go, well, now you know this. And you're like, I don't know. You don't want to say, I don't know anything. But you don't want to like shake people's confidence and want to give you money. But at the same time, you don't want to mislead them.
I think after Up in the Air, which was also successful, I think my ego was probably out of control. And too many people probably told me.
You may not remember this. Saw you at a party when Up in the Air was out.
Yeah.
And I go, hey, man, I saw the movie. It's really great. And you go, you do me a favor, just tell me it was overrated. And I go, oh, it was overrated.
Did I really say that?
Yep. And we just walked. I went, oh yeah, it was overrated. And you go, thank you.
Was there a hint of comedy in what I was saying?
Yeah, it was. You were leaving a party and you must have gotten glorified in some way.
Yeah.
And you were just kind of like, you seem cynical. You, sir. You seem so. And it's like one of my favorite Hollywood stories because I could talk about.
I feel like we're about to enter
movie.
like a Jerry O'Connell situation where it's like, I'm not sure if that was the tone. I'm not sure if that was the tone.
Very funny. But yes, that was a funny. Like, there's so many of those moments in Saturday Night.
I remember saying that joke at the time. I remember when Up in the Air was being universally praised, and I would make that joke, particularly to someone like you, where I'm like, just,
stop it.
Tell me it's fucking overrated.
Yeah.
And because people are being too kind, but also I was believing the people who were saying you're a genius. And my ego was
why wouldn't you?
Soaring. Yeah.
If enough people say it.
Well, and it happened really early. I got really lucky, really young, and it's really dangerous. It makes you believe shit that's not true.
How did you disabuse yourself of all the things you'd learned? All the fake things you learned about yourself.
I mean, it's like I went through a weird curve because I think early on I grew up thinking, well, I'm the son of Ivan Reitman, and that's literally the only way anyone will ever view me. And people are going to hate me because of that. And people will think that I'm just a spoiled brat who was given everything, who doesn't know how to do shit. And that's going to be the perception. And then the perception was like the opposite coming off of those few films.
He's not the son of Ivan Reitman.
and then I was
the
humbled.
opposite meaning like, oh, you're almost better than Ivan Reitman.
No. I just mean like, I think you grow up the son of a famous director and just people presume, you don't know how to do shit. Like you literally don't know how to do laundry. Like you don't know how to be a human being.
Right.
And you haven't bothered trying in your life because why? And you probably have an alcohol or drug problem. Like all these things that people presumed about me. Or I thought people presumed about me. And after Up in the Air, I just had films that bombed and films that people didn't like. I got divorced. Like a whole bunch of shit happened. That was pretty humbling.
And it was genuinely humbling?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing is like you get a lead. No, it's all you. We all end up having kind of the same experience. Do you know what I mean? Like all in. Obviously, like
and you're talking about like also just like people who got lucky enough to have a hit in the first place. But yeah, like amongst the people who like got to play, yeah,
you end up having 3 killers and 8 bombs, and probably what your dad had more or less.
By the way, 1,000,000%, and that's something I've always been fortunate enough in that I got to watch my father and his career and the way he reacted to it, and in real time, and I would see him frustrated over the fact that there was 15 years straight of movies that are just not remembered, you know?
Yeah.
My Super Ex-Girlfriend,
do you think,
films that were just like people just like lost to time and no one gives a shit.
Did he handle it well?
Not at the time.
Did he, obviously you came to understand probably every ounce of what he went through. Could you learn from it and go, I'm not going to do that?
My last conversation with my father was a long, beautiful 5-hour conversation, but a lot of it was me saying, you got to slow down. Like, go see the world. I remember telling my dad, I said, what's a place in the world you've never been to, you always wanted to go? And he looked at me for like a long time and then finally went, nowhere. I said, nowhere? He goes, no, I'm good. He just wanted to go make another movie.
How did he die?
Out of nowhere. Literally, I just got a call the first thing in the morning. He was 75 years old, just woke up. Didn't wake up.
And heart attack?
We don't know.
Okay, well, do you think...
Like that's
Are you trying to avoid that?
I mean, I'm like all of us, or many of us, I'm trying to study every director I know and try to figure out, okay, what is the path? I mean, did you do that? Did you do that with stand-up? Did you do that with comedy? Where you're just going like...
You mentioned ambition as one of your blocks. It's the crossroads between nepotism and ambition, which I think is interesting. And but you kind of, I was more ambitious. I've gotten less ambitious over time because you just go, what kind of life am I trying to live? And what kind of life is worth living?
Right.
Because your dad had from the outside in, an enviable life.
Oh my God.
Anybody who's like, I think I've been everywhere.
Well, particularly where he started. You know, my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. My grandparents, when my father was 4 years old, escaped a small town on the border of Hungary and Slovakia under the floorboards of a boat, you know? And then he arrives in Toronto, doesn't speak the language, doesn't speak English, and he goes on to be one of the most successful directors in history. Yeah. I mean, the not only was a success, but the trajectory is insane.
And how about his temperament?
What do you mean?
That's where I get into what sort of life is worth living. What kind of person should one be?
He learned to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that faster.
When you say faster, I'm assuming he was in his 60s or something?
I think he began to enjoy it later. And one thing that I think I've definitely started to enjoy earlier is the love of actually just making the movies. And when I first started making films, it really was just outcome based. It's just like, you know, I know where I want to get to. And I think if you had probably seen me on set, you'd see a pretty stressed out, miserable person who's just trying to get to the finish line. And if you saw me on the set of my last 3 or 4 movies, you'd say that's a pretty happy guy. Like that's the happiest I'm.
How and why did you make the transition?
Begin to realize that's actually the best part of it. And for so many reasons. I mean, one, and I think you probably know this bit, is when you're working with talented people, there's a moment where you see them do something special and you realize you just watched something for the first time that everyone else is going to see. Yeah. And it's extraordinary. You start looking forward to those moments. Yeah. 2, when you start realizing that, all right, when you show up on set and there's over 100 people there who are only trying to make you a better storyteller. When I say you have gratitude, it's not like a yoga way. Like you really can't help but have gratitude for this group of people who just are killing themselves. They're waking up at the crack of dawn and ignoring their families and sacrificing everything just so you could tell your little story. Like the moment that actually like dawns on you, you realize, oh, this is a really nice place to be. I'm surrounded by people.
And was that something you were sort of like you would give lip service to early, but then
then you start to realize, oh, that's a real thing. Yeah. And well, also because the people who I make movies with are genuinely close friends. And I'm not saying like the stars. I mean, like my crew. Like these are my close friends, people I email, I hang out with, I have movie nights with. And so when we go make a movie together, I'm with people I really like. Yeah. And so I genuinely learned to love the process and appreciate that.
I want to talk about the Saturday Night movie.
Okay.
How did you approach it knowing some of these people? Meaning you must, I mean, you know Lorne a little, right?
Does anybody know Lorne?
Really, at the end of the day. It was funny seeing the girl give his backstory. I was like, oh.
Lorne lost his dad when he was 14.
Yeah, you suddenly go, oh.
Yeah, but I mean, again, if you give someone's backstory, if their dad died, you go, oh, that explains everything. And it doesn't matter what everything is. It's like, and then he went on to whatever.
The one thing I really found fascinating about his backstory was that his father died and they were meant to move. And then they didn't, but his mom had already sold all their furniture. And so at 14, he lived in a house without a father or furniture for a year.
Yeah.
That I found fascinating.
As a metaphor and an actual...
I mean, the idea that he's going to go on and create the orphanage for every wayward comedian of the last 50 years, like that kind of makes sense.
Okay, well, here's the other thing is, are you kind of worshiping at this altar, which may, like, how did you approach that? And then how would you feel if someone made a Ghostbusters version?
It'd be really interesting. Although, look...
meaning a biopic about the origin of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, no, I get it.
No, but I'm talking to the people at home.
So first I gotta kind of share another dad story, which is one day my dad calls me up and says, you gotta come over to the house and watch 24 with me. And I was like, the Kiefer Sutherland show? And he's like, yeah, it's great. I was like, all right. So I go to my dad's house and he puts on the show. And we watched 3 episodes of 24, and it's fantastic. Did you ever watch it?
Yeah.
It's like a fantastic show.
Yep.
It's him. Jack Bauer.
And I go to him, I said, this is great. I said, why is this show so good? There's so many shows about terrorism. Why is this one so good? And my dad looked at me like I was crazy, and he goes, this isn't a show about terrorism. Terrorism is a location. This is a show about a man trying to keep his family together. Never mistake your location for your plot.
Right.
And it's like one of the most important directing lessons I ever learned. SNL really isn't the plot. SNL is a location. And so when you ask about worship against the altar, it's like, yes, I'm like you, I'm like everybody else. The moment I discovered SNL, I was like, this is everything I've always been looking for. This is the island I need to get to. When I had, as a 15-year-old, if you asked me, what do you want to do for a living when you're older? It would either be make movies, be a writer at SNL. That's the 2 dreams. So obsessed, read the books, looked at would look at those photos of the table reads and the whole thing. When I made Juno, my agent asked me, like, what do you want to do next? And I said, do you think they'd ever let me be a guest writer at SNL? And Lauren said yes. And he let me write there for a week. And it was everything. It was like, it was getting to dress up for the Dodgers, or like whatever. So yes, in that way, I've always been obsessed with SNL. But what I was more interested in was 2 things from a filmmaking point of view. One, can I capture what it's like when a piece of genius comes into the universe? Like, what does it feel like? What does it look like? The same way that Peter Jackson made that documentary about the Beatles.
Mm-hmm. All the Ring footage from the...
Yeah, exactly.
the surveillance footage of the Beatles that he cobbled together.
And then, it's really funny. 2, what I'd really been obsessed with was making a movie in real time. What I wanted to do forever was make a movie where...
Like 24?
Like 24. That's the lesson I took away from my father.
Literally have a ticking clock on screen. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we all have to rewatch 24. All right.
You hit a stopwatch, the movie starts,
right,
and you're off to the races. That's something that really interested me. And how many characters could we follow, and could we create such a deep sense of reality that it felt like you just kind of got dropped into that location? And
now, that's obviously not what happened.
What do you mean?
Between 10 and 11:30 on whatever that day was.
No.
How do you feel about squeezing it?
I feel fine. It's a movie.
Fine. It's fine.
It's so funny. It's it's actually kind of nice to be at like this point in the process of like talking about the film, because obviously on like day 1 of interviews, I'm trying to be so careful about the way I explain that, like, we took events from 4 months, weeks, you condensed it down. This is what they do in movies all the time. But look, just talking to you, like, what the fuck? It's a movie. Like, what are we talking about? All these things happened. They didn't happen on that night, but they did happen. I'm telling a story, and to say that this is a documentary about SNL is just to not even understand what a movie is. So
the one question I had is, do you think Lorne, that thing about it's an all-nighter?
It's an all-nighter in the city.
His explanation of what the show should be.
Yeah.
Did he ever say that?
I wrote that.
Okay. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
What has he said about it? If whatever you can tell
Lorne
me.
plays things very close to the vest,
right.
And I guess I'll say that. Look, Lauren's been really generous with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Him and your dad, contemporaries, buddies, friends.
Yeah, but not look.
Probably rivals a little bit. I'm betting.
They're the same exact age. They're both the Torontonian Jews who discovered the same group of brilliant comedians, and both had success with them.
Yeah.
And look, you know this business well enough. I never heard either of them say a mean thing about the other. But we never, I didn't spend Christmas with the, with the Michaels.
Yeah.
I think one was in LA and one was in New York. They were doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And also, and I'm not sure if you felt this, but particularly in comedy and particularly from that era, there's a sense of competition that was uglier then than it is now.
And also more open.
What do you mean?
Openly hostile.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
and
there's the fist fight between,
of course,
Chetty
and Bill. And I think with each previous generation, it's even gnarlier. Like when I'm portraying Milton Berle's generation.
Oh, yeah.
Who the fuck are you, kid? You're barely in the fucking building. You're not even a swinging dick. Call me after he's done crying.
They were brutal
Yeah.
to each other. And you feel that when you talk to older comedians or older comedians, their unwillingness to give another comedian a compliment or their how dedicated they are to explaining what they created and what belongs to them.
Gen Z's gone so far the other way. Everyone is iconic. I have a joke with Anna Kendrick whenever someone calls us a legend.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, She texts me like, someone just called me a legend.
That's funny.
Sorry. Okay, so it's condensed and roughly.
Well, because the point is not to be a documentary or to be informative. The point is to feel something.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to capture, what does it feel like to put on a show?
Yeah.
Like in a real way, and use a show that we all feel like we know and understand, and has been a touchstone for generations. So that when they finally say
live from New York, it's
Saturday night, it's exhilarating as what it actually feels like to be in the room when that happens.
Yeah, it's cold. It's physically cold.
It's physically cold, but it's scary.
It's like a college football game. It's how it feels.
Like 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And I've never heard someone say that, but that is 1,000% true.
You've never heard
Michigan, 100,000 people.
A band sound like that.
Right.
You're cold. You're chilly for summer. You're inside. You're chilly. A band is playing, and you're like, "This is so exciting."
And they're going. There's a minute. Minute till we go live. 30 seconds till we go live. And you're in the audience. You have nothing to do but laugh that night.
Yeah.
And you're nervous as though you're gonna fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. It is like nothing else in the world. Let's get to some blocks. Guys, we're all built differently. We're different looks, sizes, different families, different preferences, different experiences, different lives. If we're all so different, then why do we tend to turn to the same family, friends, and online forums first for doctor or therapist recommendation? What our friends or forum mates need is likely vastly different from what we need. But thanks to ZocDoc, we finally have an easy and painless way to find and book a mental health provider that's right for us. And we're not just talking about therapist appointments. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare all types of in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment right then and there. With more than 100,000 high-quality doctors, you can find a provider across every specialty from mental health to dental health, primary care to urgent care, and more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, are a good fit for any medical need you may have, and are highly rated by verified patients. I wanted to change dentists, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to figure out a way to find a new one and use this product. And I used it, and I got a new dentist, everybody. Ngang, ngang. So in short, I use this and you should too. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/NEAL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/NEAL, ZocDoc.com/NEAL. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey, it's me, Neal. But what do you want your 2025 story to be? In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's a part of your story you've been waiting to revise. Maybe there's a secret thing you've kept in the closet. Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live. Look, it almost seems redundant for BetterHelp to sponsor this podcast because it's so everybody brings up therapy. Pretty much every guest has. I bring it up all the time. I'm about to restart therapy. Don't worry about why. Look, there's always room to grow. Even you, Neal, even me, guys. Even I am a work in progress. I got to do some rewrites. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/NEAL to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/NEAL for 10% off your first month. Writing and therapy saved me. Writing as a metaphor in this context also saved me. Rewriting my personal history, etc., etc. Do it yourself. Tell them Neal sent you. BetterHelp/Neal. Let's get to some blocks.
It's a great concept for a show. I know
Jimmy
you're
Carr.
deep into this thing.
Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr's idea.
Which one?
This show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Unless you were talking about Saturday Night Live.
No, it's really funny. There's a joke in the movie that I heard for the first time from Jimmy Carr, and he said it at a roast battle, and I went up to him and I said, "That's a great fucking joke. Did you just come up with that?" And he goes, "No, that's what kids just used to say on the playground." And then I heard other people say they used to hear it on the playground, and then I felt comfortable putting it in the movie.
Back your mother's teeth?
Yeah.
If you want my comeback, you're going to have to scrape it off the back of your mom's teeth.
Killer.
Yeah. He gave it to Milton Berle. I'll let Jimmy know that it's in the movie. Okay, well, we talked about anxiety, which...
Sorry,
You've
I
got
know
anxiety.
that it's like I
no,
feel like
no,
that's
but your description of
dime a
it
dozen.
is interesting, which is you described it as a moody spirit animal.
Yeah.
What? Explain yourself.
I feel like all my blocks.
Like you don't. Do you? It sounds like you've made peace with it.
No, absolutely not. I think that's why I said it was a moody spirit animal, because it's still sitting next to me, and I worry that if I were to calm it down, I wouldn't be myself and I wouldn't know how to write anymore. My fear with therapy, my fear with all these things is that if I were to become the best version of myself, I would run out of things to say and I wouldn't know how to say them.
But then maybe you travel.
Oh, you mean like just like
this goes to your
go
thing
see
about
Italy?
like it goes to the thing of like what your dad was, you were trying to get out of your dad.
Oh yeah.
I'm as you said, your obituary is already written.
Right. The opening line is son of Ghostbusters director.
I think that's second paragraph. I think it's easy. I think it's
Juno
glib.
and then goes to
They get to it. But my point is like
I've lost the parenthetical. I used to have a parenthetical. It was Jason parenthetical son of Ivan parenthetical Reitman. And they don't do that anymore, and that's kind of nice.
Yeah, that must what a
It's a win.
Yeah. What I'm saying is I don't know if you have to be I go back and forth obviously between are these blocks, are these problems helpful,
right,
or are they a masturbatory waste of time,
right,
or just a thing we're stuck in, like a loop?
Yeah.
That's not. Are we all just people like just kind of, we're all living, but we're all just sort of like repeating the same thing over and over again?
I mean, look, that's part of what it means to be an artist. You ever watch that show, The Idol? Sam Levinson's show.
Is this one of your dad's story? I'm kidding. It's like 24. No, I never saw
My
it.
dad calls you, says, you got to come over and watch The Idol.
He's been dead
Have
2
you ever heard
years.
this guy The Weeknd? I love that show. Everyone hates that show. I love that show. And I love Sam. But I thought it was a really great portrayal of, artists torture themselves so that other people can be entertained. That's kind of the bit. And that's what we do to singers, as we do to actors, as we do to comedians. And we want them to experience their trauma at peak so that we can feel something.
Yeah. So you see it as kind of a service. Because a part of me is like watching Saturday Night, watching the Bob Dylan movie, and watching September 5th.
Yeah.
I'm a bit like, is this the most important thing in the world? Show business? Is it that I'm in show business? Is it that heroic? You can trick yourself into it.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this. Do you think any of those three, and I know what you're talking about because I've definitely seen that in movies where it's like, look at these heroes. And definitely about, I'm not even going to say it, but with those three films,
Complete Unknown's about a guy picking a different guitar if you haven't seen it. Go ahead.
I don't think that those three films are depicting heroism. I don't think that's the purpose of any of those three films. Certainly not what Saturday Night Live is about. I don't think my movie's about, and these are the guys who saved the world, or
So what you see it as a guy trying to execute invisible thing, trying to bring about a thing that exists only in his mind.
I do think that storytelling, directing, being a comedian, creating a joke. When you create something that's never been done before, it's impossible to explain to people until it's already done. So explaining why a joke is funny, it's just impossible. At some point, you just have to do it, and then people get it. But other than that, I thought that there was something special in Saturday Night Live about how these disparate people came together, which is what I experienced when I was there. The amount of talent, but different kind of talent, and particularly on opening night. The sheer range of talent, the idea that, Jim Henson is there and they're going to put on an Albert Brooks film. And
hello, I'm Albert Brooks.
Also, you got Michael O'Donoghue. I mean, it's just like these different brilliant minds, like actually all geniuses, bouncing off each other, making this show. But the Bob Dylan movie isn't about what a great guy he is.
Oh, no, I don't think it's a great guy. I don't think SNL is either. I think it's about trying to give birth to like a thing, to a piece of art or a type of art or whatever.
I think that's worthy of note.
It's just a thing I noticed. And the less ambitious I get, and I don't know what movies should be about, by the way.
Yeah.
Meaning you did one about lobbyists and smoking, and you did one about
so
being
again,
a mom.
all right, so I'm going to go back to my dad's thing about location. Honestly, because Thank You for Smoking is not about tobacco lobbying. Tobacco lobbying's location. We could have made that movie take place anywhere. It's about choice. It's about why the fuck are you telling me what to do? When I was 25 years old and I made that movie, all I could think was, do you think I'm an idiot? I actually don't know that cigarettes are dangerous to me. Why are you talking to me about this? Why are you telling me about anything? Why are you telling me how to live? That's all that movie was. And then how do you be a parent and simultaneously not believe in a nanny state? And it was just me trying to figure that question out.
Yeah.
Juno's not about teen pregnancy. Teen pregnancy is a location. That's a movie about what's the moment we grow up.
And apparently Taxi Driver is about LA. I've heard that. It's about everything's separated by windshields, and it's like
when you said that, I heard that episode. And I was like, oh God, that does actually make sense. Is that true? He wrote it about LA?
So his nephew told me that. Schrader's nephew.
I wonder if he would cop to that or not. It's so iconic.
He wrote it here.
That actually is iconic.
Yeah.
But the Bob Dylan movie isn't about Bob Dylan. The Bob Dylan movie is about the desire to disappear. And, he disappears once from wherever he was from, making up all these stories. He moves to New York City, becomes famous. By the end of the movie, he needs to disappear again. And we're all pissed at him for wanting to disappear.
Having read the book and seen the Scorsese and about Bob Dylan, I think that he's a style thief. That was
A
like
style
he's
fave?
he is style thief. He's
style
doing
thief.
what he got there. It's like he's
Right.
literally doing his songs.
Right.
I was always kind of like, this guy's a bit of a pretend. You know,
You're not a Bob Dylan fan?
I am a fan, but I'm still like he's using stolen material.
In
He's
his own way.
covering it in his
he's-
own way, but
Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with you. I find him
That's
highly
fine.
original, but his music is extraordinarily moving, which I think is kind of the most important part. It's like we're all using the same building blocks, we're all using the same parts, and it's really what you do with them. And what he does with them, I felt the first time I heard him. And I'm not even a guy who listens to lyrics. I don't listen to anybody's lyrics, but he moves me.
you should listen to lyrics sometimes. They're pretty cool.
I know people say that, but
kidding.
there's
You should
kind of an
read them.
instinct.
There's a button you can push on the app.
Do you consider the Dylan movie a musical?
I try to get Nikki to do a joke. It's Bob Dylan's greatest hits with women slamming doors in between songs. And she was like, I can't do that.
It's a funny joke.
And also, no one's seen it. That's the other thing. Is
How many jokes do you have that just sit on a shelf?
I thought thousands, but they're not good. They're not good enough. They're pretty good, and that's just mean. And you have to be.
Do you have feelings for your unused jokes?
Yes, I have. Here's what'll happen. I'll write a long bit, and then parts of it won't work, and then it'll become like a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be on Netflix, and people will bring it up, and whenever they bring it up, I'll think about the parts of it that they fucked me on.
Wait,
That didn't work.
hold on. Does Netflix cut jokes
No.
out?
It's not they fuck. The audience fucked me. The audience fucked me
Oh, 'cause they didn't go for it.
Work. It didn't work.
How
It never
often-
worked.
How often are you feeling that about the audience? Like, come on,
Well,
this is better than you're giving
Yeah,
credit for.
you just accept it. But you're like, man, one of these days it's all gonna work. You make a movie about it. Make a movie about my process.
No, but I think that actually is also a lot of like filmmaking.
Yeah,
Is
you're mad that that one scene.
So my fourth film was called Young Adult, and it's probably the film I'm most proud of. Like, it's the one like.
And Charlize it's very unlike what classically unlikable.
Right, which makes me love her.
I'm sure,
Like,
yeah.
and I remember we had a test
It's
screening.
challenging material.
I guess so, but honestly, like is Bad Santa like challenging material? You just got an unlikable
broader.
person. It is broader. That's true. So Young Adult, we have our test screening. And the test screening, so, we have a test screening where we go out to, a theater, we show an audience, they fill out cards and they give you a score. And, like on Juno, our score was in the 90s, and then On Up in the Air was in the high 80s. And on Young Adult, it was in the 40s. And they have a focus group after. And there was a young woman in the focus group, and her response, they don't know that the filmmakers are there. We're all hiding in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she just goes, I don't know why Jason Reitman wants me to feel this way. And it was like simultaneously
You're like, I'll take this.
It was simultaneously like the biggest win. It was like, oh, this is awesome. Like the movie is working. Like it's hurting her in the right way.
Yeah.
But then I also had to kind of contend with, oh, why aren't they happy? Why aren't they grateful when I hurt them? And I think that's something I'm still trying to figure out as a director to this day, because I love when movies hurt me.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but they're probably. I remember being like real little and loving Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah.
Not even knowing sex change.
Yeah.
I just liked that thing, whatever it was. And I was very young, and it's like, why did I even like it? It's like I just like shit like that.
It's perfect. I mean, Sidney Lumet was.
Yeah, but it's also you like a mean. I like a stab.
Right.
I just have a taste for it. The audience doesn't. But so you just go like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the audience doesn't like it? Or do you think the audience has been taught for so long, just respond, you like sugar, like just respond to the things that you like? Like, do you have to learn to like whiskey?
I think you're probably, that's a good analogy of like sugar versus whiskey. What's a thing that I watched one of the Ghostbusters recently, one of your Ghostbusters,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like just different it is sugar filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you kind of feel like, let me just pour the sugar in?
I guess so. I mean, I directed one Ghostbusters film. I directed Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I had a really specific idea going into that, which was, I had always had this idea in my head of a teenage girl finding a proton pack in a barn, and I didn't know why. And eventually, I kind of knew who she was, and I knew what the story was. And my editor at one point was like, I used to just joke about, one day I'll make a Ghostbusters film.
Yeah,
but I was just fucking around. And my editor just said one day, you got to make that movie. Your daughter's 12. Pretty soon she won't care.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I watched it because I'm involved with a woman who's got a 4-year-old.
Really?
So,
Seriously?
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so I went and I made that movie. What I didn't realize, of course.
Fucking loves it, by the way.
I love
Has
that.
watched it 5 times in
Thank you.
2 weeks. So I'm good because I got off Amazon, and so I got my money's worth.
Nice. I'm happy for you.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know it was going to be the last second to make that movie with my dad. And we made that movie and he died, a year later. So it was important as a dad, and my daughter, was 12, 13 years old on the set of that, and she loved it. And it was important for me to make that movie with my father. But what I was thinking about at the time was, living vicariously through my father, trying to think about what he was thinking, what he was feeling as he made the original, and trying to kind of tie back into that origin story and, what is a Ghostbusters movie, tonally, constructionally, design-wise, all those things. So I found it to be an interesting challenge. I don't think I was thinking about sugar as much. Honestly, I don't think I probably made the least funny Ghostbusters movie.
But it's got a lot of cranes and jibs and it's got
no,
like
it's
stuff.
actually the opposite.
Then
I don't want to be a dick.
I haven't watched yours. I watched the.
Did you say Frozen Empire?
Yeah.
The latest one. So, and my writing partner, Gil Kennan, directed that one, which is not as much my shooting style. It's Gil's shooting style.
Okay.
All power to him. But my approach on Afterlife was, I want to make a movie with only the technology they had in '84. So that's not to say we didn't use CG, but as far as shooting it, we're shooting it the way they would have shot it then. There's almost no, I don't think there's a single crane shot in the entire film. And we're literally trying to make it the way they did in '84.
Why'd you do that? Why did you decide to do it that way?
I don't know. I guess that's what was interesting to me about it, was sitting down with my DP and my production designer and trying to figure out exactly, all right, what is the DNA?
Was your dad
film?
You don't got to do this?
100%. My dad never understood sequels. My dad was like, I don't know why people want to return to this stuff. When I wrote Afterlife, and you meet this girl and she like goes out to Oklahoma and she finds a proton pack and my dad's like, this is great. And then Terror Dogs showed up, which is the same thing as 84. And he's like, why Gozer? Why do we need to go back here?
Yeah.
He's just like, can I just have a new story? He just did not. I think it's one of the reasons the Ghostbusters franchise didn't flourish consistently over decades, is because my dad, after Ghostbusters, was like, I'm gonna go to Twins. I don't care. I don't.
Was less involved in the sequels.
Well, he made Ghostbusters 2, and then he just, and there's nothing for years. It just didn't. This is how much my dad cared about sequels. On the Ghostbusters car in Ghostbusters 2, it has the Ghostbusters character with the 2. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I asked him years later. I was like, why does the Ghostbusters movie logo for the sequel appear on Ecto 1? Are they aware that they're in a sequel? Is that why they have the Ghostbusters ghost with the 2 on the side of their physical car?
Yeah, all of their salaries were doubled.
Yeah, exactly. My dad just is like, yeah, that was probably a mistake. He just didn't.
Yeah, he wasn't paying attention.
He just didn't care. He doesn't care about that thing that people love about Marvel, where every part of that franchise, whether it's a lunchbox or a comic book, is touching on a collective story that if you love Marvel, everything connects. That is the opposite of my father. My father was just like, I just want to go tell him a new story.
You know what I don't like about jeans? It's knowing what kind of jeans are cool and what aren't. So it's just hard because I don't follow jeans like that. And then Perfect Jean came on as a sponsor, sent me some jeans. I was like, these are perfect jeans. Fit nice. They were soft. They were stretchy, which is new. because the last time I bought jeans, they weren't that stretchy. I can bend over. They're tight, but I got the skinnies, I think. But you can still bend over. No problem there. I can lift my legs. That was great. You know how I love lifting my legs. I didn't really know what to pay for it. These seemed like they were, $80. That seemed about right. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectgene.nyc or Google The Perfect Gene and use code NEAL15 for 15% off. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectgene.nyc with promo code NEAL15. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Fuck your khakis and get theperfectgene.nyc. Code NEAL15. Ooh. Guys, the new year is the perfect time to reset and focus on our health. Diet and exercise help, but they're not always enough to address the changes our bodies go through as we age. That's why I started using Cell Being by Verso. I have it right here. After just a short time, I noticed I felt younger, with more energy, sharper focus throughout the day, and more endurance when I work out. Yes, I work out. Shut up. These ingredients have been proven in both animal and human studies to boost metabolism and burn fat. It does this by increasing the body's process to break down fat and acts as a calorie restriction mimetic, something I never thought of before, tricking your body into thinking it's consuming fewer calories. It also helps regulate glucose and leptin levels, which suppresses hunger and increases feelings of being full, which curbs cravings. After taking Cell Being, I work out good. I still work out good. Better. My sleep's actually great. I haven't been sick in forever, and I had no complaint. Plus, Verso publishes third-party test results for each batch produced, so you know you're getting exactly what you're paying for. That's huge, because if you take a lot of stuff, you know what it is. Click the link in the description or head on over to ver.so and use coupon code NEAL at checkout to save 15% off on your first order. One of your blocks is being a indie director in a studio movie director's body, which I think is a funny way to put it.
God,
but we're kind of saying that, so you see the Ghostbusters that I didn't see as sort of an indie version.
Oh, you got to see my Ghostbusters.
I
you
will.
Might actually
now
like
I will,
it.
yeah.
It's beautiful. It makes people cry, and that was my favorite comment always, was like, great, that's all I wanted to do at the Ghostbusters movie was cry. But it's really lovely. It's about 3 generations of a family. It's like a Noah Baumbach Ghostbusters movie.
Great.
It's 3 generations that don't get along.
Great.
And that's what it's really about.
My grandfather died. My mom says we're just here to pick through the rubble of his life.
I do feel like people always presumed that I was going to do studio film, studio comedy, from the moment I said I wanted to be a director. And that's not why I became a director, because I started seeing Sundance films, and that's what turned me on. And I believe that those are the kinds of films I make, and I think it's tricky because I'm my father's son. I like comedy, which also makes people think, oh, okay, I guess you just want to do broad things, and I'm not really interested in that.
The thing I was saying about showbiz changing, do you find it harder to make small movies?
It's a great question. And, it's not that it's harder to make smaller films. You can make smaller films as well as you could 20 years ago. It's where people watch them. And that's what's interesting is...
Do you care?
Oh, I bought a movie theater last year. Yeah, I care. I believe in people seeing movies in movie theaters, and not because the screen is big or the sound is good. I think it's actually important for people to cry together and laugh together collectively. You actually put randos together who would otherwise never talk to each other, who are culturally diverse, who are actually socioeconomically diverse, and you laugh at the same shit. It's like, you're like, oh yeah, you're not so different. You laugh at the same stupid shit. You cry at the same stupid things. We're all human, and that's actually important.
Yeah. You think it's fortifying?
Yeah. And
it's church, it's all the stuff. Did you watch that documentary, Join or Die?
Church.
Join or Die. It's about it's on Netflix. It's the guy who wrote Bowling Alone. He's basically saying join a club and you will live longer.
I buy that.
Statistically.
Yeah, that's great.
And it sounds like what you're talking about. It's do you find yourself is the theater in LA?
Yeah, I put together a group of 30 directors to buy the Mann Village in Westwood.
Oh,
the big one with the tower and
yeah.
everything. Yeah. So I saw that was going for sale, and I put down an offer, not even knowing how I was going to make this work, and just started asking directors to join me. And I got 30 directors, 30 of the best living directors to join me. And it's...
Who was 31? I'm kidding. I like how it's about status. Even
Yeah.
with, like, I need money, but not you.
Maybe. No, although there was kind of a notion of like, are you dedicated to making movies? And that's a tricky thing, because I think a lot of people are like, fuck it, I'll just make television.
Have you made a direct to? I mean, even
I haven't made anything yet for streaming, and I'm not against it. I would look here, but here's the thing. Like, so I just made the Saturday Night movie, right? And it's good. It's a good fucking movie. Like, I'm really proud of it. Everyone who made it is proud of it. Anyone who sees it has a great time watching it. It's a good movie. It made nothing. It came out into theaters, and I thought, you say, oh, it's a franchise movie. Everybody knows Saturday Night Live. Every generation has been touched by Saturday Night Live. Nobody saw it. If we had come out on Netflix day one,
yeah,
there'd be 100 million people who saw that movie. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but there'd be 10 million people who saw that movie.
Yeah.
At least.
At least, yeah.
And it's comedy, it's connected to SNL. Also, it's got like 20 known actors in it.
Yep.
So, do I want that? Like, do I want my film to exist?
Do you see, like, that's the way the wind's blowing?
Well, I mean, that is the way the wind is blowing. The only question is it worth fighting that? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if I'm just a tool sitting here going, I really want my movies to come out in movie
I know the
theaters.
answer. It's not worth fighting. Come to Netflix. Thank you for coming. I just wanted to let you know.
Is that the whole purpose of today?
Yeah. I'm not even,
like,
this isn't even rolling.
I mean, but honestly, you get away from it. But
there should be, we do need, shared experiences. And
you say that like that.
We do. We human beings need shared experiences, and I think I realize it, and I'm still like, shut the door. Like, I'm still prone to being like,
movies.
I couldn't tell you the last time I went to a movie.
Actually?
I couldn't to go.
And you said you have a kid right now?
Yeah. He's too young to go to the theater.
Got it. And that definitely changes things.
Yeah.
Do you think if you were not a parent right now, you would go to the movies?
No.
Tell me why.
It's just too inconvenient for what I mean, but
I wonder if that's true. If you think about all the other things that you do in your life.
It's all pretty aimed at convenience. But there are certain things that I do that, like, I will do, like...
Yeah, what do you go out for?
Well, I will... I read in a Martin Amis author, he wrote a book in the 90s, and he just had a sentence or two about that great art comes from inconvenience. Mm-hmm. And he's like, and the idea was like, before Beethoven wrote like the Fifth Symphony, he lugged a vacuum across London, and he was just so inconvenienced that his body gave him the Fifth Symphony. You know what I mean? Just you do something awful, it will be catalyzed into something.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm actually
Tracy Letts said, great writing comes from boredom.
Yeah.
You need to be bored to be a good writer.
Yes. So I don't mind doing stuff like drudgery, but I don't like doing drudgery in the name of what's supposed to be entertainment. I hate going to concerts and waiting for them to start. Like, there's just stuff where I'm like, let's fucking go. And whatever I'm supposed to be
the nice thing
getting,
about a movie is it starts promptly. You don't. They're not fucking with you.
But trailers.
Yeah, but you know how long the trailers are commercials. You can get there knowing when it's going to start.
Yeah, you're right. But then you feel like maybe you miss something. Yeah, I don't see it as. I couldn't even tell you the last time I went to.
Got it.
Maybe Oppenheimer.
Okay, why'd you go see Oppenheimer in the theaters?
Because it seemed like it was shot. It was meant for that. It seemed like, all right, this guy went out of his way.
Yeah, I know. I think that's part of. And look, first of all, like, I love Chris. I admire Chris. Chris is one of the
investor.
He's one of the investors.
One of
the investors in the movie theater, and made one of the best movies, of the last, I don't know how many decades.
Memento.
Movie's extraordinary.
You're talking about Memento.
Memento is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But because of that argument, it's all about picture and sound. You went to see Oppenheimer. Maybe you saw it in 70 millimeter, and that was the reason that you went out. But is that as important as, I don't even know. I mean, seeing the original Ghostbusters, what that would have been like to see with an audience.
Oh, then it was so fun. I remember seeing, I think Ghostbusters, one I saw in the theater.
Yeah.
And it was, I remember
and
it.
It's electric, And but you didn't walk out and going, I needed to see that in the theater because, the
I didn't know.
Laszlo Kovac cinematography and exactly.
1982 or something. Or whatever
yeah,
year it
exactly.
was.
What made it important is the collective experience you had with that audience.
Yes.
It was electric. It was like watching Eddie Murphy's Delirious, whatever. It was just and those movies are still happening. And that is the experience I think people should still be happening.
Well, you got to get your money back one way or the other.
I'm not going to make money on this theater. That's not the... you mean on making movies?
Well, no, I'm talking about the theater, but yeah. Okay, so Shame. We never even finished Shame.
Yeah.
So you see it as a necessary evil?
I don't know about that. I think it's just an evil, I really love, that guy John Ronson, that Welsh writer, I love all the stuff that he's doing on Shame. I think it's become actually one of the most dangerous things around, and it prevents us from being ourselves. And I'm so guilty of that. And I feel like that.
You wrote that. Who would you be if not for Shame?
I don't know. I just know how often every day I'm thinking about how my thoughts, how my feelings, how they come across. What am I allowed to write? I wonder how much more free a writer I would be and director if I had zero shame, and if I just said, "Fuck it, I'm going to write and direct what I feel." And
you've never even taken that approach?
I think I take glances at it. I think certainly, Up in the Air is dealing with a little bit of shame. Up in the Air is me going, "Is life meant to be lived with somebody?" Why is that prescribed?
I think about Up in the Air. More, I think about the idea of it. But I think about that. Well, that's what I mean by what is the purpose? He's an ambitious guy. Maybe he's avoidant, or he's definitely avoidant. He's channeling into ambition. Is he your dad? Is he you? Is he me? Is he
why am I writing
Lauren?
that movie?
Is he meaning? It doesn't really have to do with. I guess it has to do with shame in some ways, which is is that not the right way to live?
Well,
definitely not.
Well, that's kind of the point. Is that I think I'm using it as an opportunity to explore a philosophy that I might just believe in. And at the time, I definitely was let's work. And by the way, I'm writing at the time where I am married and the parent of a young child, and I'm sitting there writing a movie about maybe life is meant to be lived alone. And you can just kind of seamlessly move through the universe. Everything that he was saying is why do we collect these miles? Why do we do any of this stuff? Why are you close to your family? What is this? What do you, what's the point? And just, we're sharks.
We are not swans. We're sharks.
So shame for feeling that genuinely. When I know everyone around me is no, the whole point is family and connection and all this stuff and the people that you care about and what if you don't believe that? Or what if you have an inkling that may not be true? And I probably have 20 of those. And I get scared.
It seems like Thank You for Smoking has some moments of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Pretty dark notions.
How on earth would Big Tobacco profit off of the loss of this young man? It's in our best interest to keep Robin alive and smoking.
And even Herb Sargent talking to Chevy in Saturday Night is
what's going to happen to me? I mean, Herb, you've been around the block. Where am I going from here?
The American people are going to fall in love with you. You'll be obscenely overpaid for pratfalls and cute jokes. You'll waste away most of your life with purchased company. And then eventually you'll self-medicate with booze and hookers and heroin. I imagine you'll die alone, falling out of a hotel room window in Stockholm.
Jesus. I can't wait.
It's a little rough.
I don't think I was exploring anything deeply internal on Saturday Night Live as much as I was trying to look into the process of creation.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about there is a moment of like,
oh, what's your
Jason, take it away. Do your solo. Do your cynical solo.
Yeah, you're right. That's the very easy voice for me to.
And that's a voice that you're a little ashamed of.
I'm not sure. Maybe it relates to stand-up comedy. Maybe this is
well,
the
no,
voice
that's what I mean. Like
what
this
I
stuff.
feel.
This is a story I may have told on here before.
Please.
Louis Anderson, comedian, offstage a dark guy.
I live in his former house.
Great. Offstage dark guy. On stage sunny, silly.
Yeah.
One of his friends goes, well, hey, why don't you every once in a while, why don't you show him the knife? Show him the knife a little bit. Take the knife out. Show him how cutting and dark you are. And Louis like, yeah, I do have this joke. It's pretty dark. I'll try it. And he does the joke. It doesn't do well because people don't want to hear from him. And he gets off stage and he goes, I think people sense the knife. Just like, I don't have to fucking stab him. I think with you, I know you got a knife. And maybe it's the whiskey sugar ratio again, but it's like, they know I have a knife. My face lets them know. My eyes let them know. I don't need to go to the lyrics. Don't also have to be knife. The tone is knife. So, and I think you're in the same boat where it's like you have some darkness that's like present.
But I guess then so my next question is, why is that a knife? Why is that considered darkness? So you believe something that is antithetical to what most people say. Maybe not even think. They may all agree, but they're afraid to say it. But why is that darkness? Why is that a knife?
Because it's antisocial. It's not pro-humanist. If you're like, I'd rather be on the road all the time. Again,
and I know
maybe
I'm the same guy who was the collective experience.
Yeah. And I got to make this one movie before my daughter ages out of it.
I have a heart.
I know, that's what I mean. Like, you do have a heart, and I think the shit that works well is heart that's got some heart, but then there's a little like rug pull.
Well, that's the conflict, right? I mean, and I suppose that is what I'm always making movies about, is those two sides of my personality. I mean, that's Thank You for Smoking, is, you have these feelings. You're a tobacco lobbyist. It's a job, and it's a much harder job than working at the Red Cross.
Was there ever an ending for Up in the Air where George was happy?
Well, I mean, it's kind of wonderful that you just said that, because the whole point of the ending of Up in the Air is that it is a mirror to the audience. Half the audience watches that movie.
I don't remember the exact ending. It's sort of like
so earlier in the movie, Anna Kendrick says, if I had your kind of miles, I would just look up at a big board of destinations. I'd pick a place and go.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to Vera's house. There's the big reveal. He goes to the airport. He's sitting there and he looks up at this big board of destination. And we cut to clouds. Now, I don't know. For half the audience, he's about to go move someplace great, meet a gal, settle down, and then for you,
right? He's going to Denver.
Yeah. He's going to Denver for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And that's it. But I also love movies that don't give you the landing, that make you take it wherever you're going to take it.
Right. Well, I think that's called quality.
I agree. Although it's so funny. I remember, But
I'm sure you've done, have you ever changed an ending to make it sunnier or changed? Didn't you do reshoots on Up in the Air of people testifying about losing their jobs?
No, that wasn't reshoots. We did that early. So, so I wrote this movie. My father reads the script to Up in the Air. The first thing he ever says is, a movie needs a plot.
Okay.
That was his first review.
Yeah.
And he was tough. He made me a much better writer. We're getting ready to shoot, and he goes, one of the things that I don't think you're nailing right now is what's happening in this country. It was 2009, huge economic downturn. We're shooting in Detroit and St. Louis. And, He goes, you got to capture that in a real way. And I don't think you're doing that right now. I think the firing scenes are kind of fake. So I went back and I read the script and he was right. Like it just didn't capture it. And Detroit and St. Louis had the highest amount of job loss in the entire country. And we just put out an ad saying we were making a documentary about job loss. And we wanted to interview people who had, been furloughed and lost their jobs. And they would come in and we'd say, all right, we want to do a role play with you. We'd interview them and then we're like, all right, we're going to fire you. And then on camera, we'd love you to say, whatever you said or whatever you wish you said, you could do whatever you want. And it wasn't George because they would have just freaked out. We had a producer do it, and we had him read this HR document. And the moment the HR language came out, their eyes just clicked in, and they lost it. I mean, people cried, they got angry, they yelled shit. I mean, and said the kind of things that as a writer you go, I would have never come up with that.
Even me.
Even
Mr.
me.
Knife.
There was a guy who said,
how you sleep at night, man? Huh? How's your family? They sleeping well at night? Electricity still on? Heat still on? Refrigerator full of food? Gas tank full of gas? Going Chuck E. Cheese this weekend or something? Not me.
I was like, I never said that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. And so we edited those into the movie. But we shot that. That was the first day of shooting.
Right. But what I'm saying is you have all this about tinkering, right?
Mm-hmm.
All in terms of the sugar whiskey ratio.
Yeah.
I think you can get it right and it could still not be a successful movie.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is the question I'm always asking myself is, do I have the courage to be ruthless to the end of the movie? And with young adult, it's ruthless to the end of the movie.
And
that's why I'm
it's
so proud of it.
Yeah. It is whoo.
Yeah.
You're like, well,
Yeah, young adult, she looks, first of all, she tells Patton Oswalt's sister, you're good here, stay. And then she looks at the broken front of her car and she's basically looking at a mirror of her kind of broken soul. And then she rides off into the sunset to go back to exactly who she was. And she's reading the voiceover from her book, which makes it sound like she's some crazy success when the apartment she's returning to and the life she's returning to.
As she boarded the train for Cambridge, she took one last look at her small town and blew it a kiss. Thinking, life, here I come.
I'm really proud of that movie.
Yeah, the tension you have with the shame is I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's what am I allowed? I try to approach stand-up like that. What am I not supposed to say? What's everybody saying?
Do you struggle with that?
Yeah. Yes.
That's so weird for me to hear you say that. I mean, because my whole perception of you is overwhelming confidence. The ability to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, look, part of that is genetic. Part of that is just literally DNA. I saw the special. I know that a lot of the things where things are coming out of your mouth and your face is doing one thing, and as a result, people are interpreting it a different way, and it's allowed you to develop as a comedian. I get the whole thing, but still, I still look at you and go, really, are you thinking about shame? Because it feels like you can say anything to anyone, particularly in this world where comedians are now terrified to say anything.
I'm lucky that I'm grandfathered in to he doesn't, but it's the same thing of it's the joke from Spinal Tap.
But what exactly do you find offensive?
Ian,
what's
you
offensive about
put a greased, naked woman
Yes.
on all fours
Yes.
with a dog collar
With a dog
around her
collar.
neck and a leash.
And a leash.
And a man's arm extended out up to here, holding on to the leash and pushing a black glove in her face to sniff it.
Well, you should have
Listen
seen
to
the
me.
cover they wanted to do.
It wasn't a glove, believe me. The first draft is so not funny.
Right.
And it's so scathing and angry, and then I find oh, you guys okay. All right.
So is your first thought scathing and angry, and then it finds its way to palatably funny?
Yes. And then you make it
It's so funny.
And also, you don't know how it, you wouldn't know what the inspiration was based on where it ends up. you'd be like, oh, that's just a silly. No, it's like, no, because I hated Barbie so fucking much, or whatever the. But yeah, you just have to make it like palatable.
Are you interested in the DNA of things, or do you like, I don't care as long as it's whatever, however?
Yeah, of course I'm very interested in the DNA, but at a certain point it doesn't matter. It's like as long as it gets there,
right?
It's like I will always remember and hold it against them a little bit that they didn't support me,
right,
in my absolute unfunny darkest hour.
Once you've nailed it, once you cracked it, you've done it 3 times. You're like, this is the way it works. Do you ever go back and be like, I got to try that original way one more time just to see?
It's another way to make it more palatable is to preface the whole thing with like, Chris Rock just did it beautifully on Saturday Night Live about the Luigi Mangione thing. I feel awful for the family.
I have real condolences for, the healthcare CEO. I mean, this is a real person, But you also got to go, sometimes drug dealers get shot.
25 years ago, Chris would not have done the preamble. But now, he knows, just like the way the society is now, my heart goes, you have to do the preamble.
Right.
So it's like, it's sugar.
And now it also just feels also like a good set. Now you're just also building tension.
Oh, now you're going like,
great.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I would never.
Yeah.
But that's what you're...
No, it's like Jesselneck. Like you're just also stoking the fire.
Yeah.
And
with Jesselneck, they're like, they come for it.
Yeah.
And with Chris or somebody else, they come for it. And
Right.
they know he's just like protecting himself.
Right.
With the setup. Which I think you do, you might consider it disappointing that it doesn't end up in the movie but like you're, I think shame is okay. As a, like I'm sure you've like thought about the origin of shame and where like, and gossip within a tribe.
Yeah.
Like it sort of regulates, it's a way to regulate the tribe when not everyone's there.
Oh yeah. And look, and it's not that I'm not aware of like how important shame has been culturally over the last like 10 years. And
you just find that it's eating it, you think it's over. You think social media and stuff has sort of
no, I'm not even talking
it?
About that. I'm not even talking about like I get the value and the importance and how it's been used as a tool, and like I get it. I think John Ronson makes really interesting points about shame as well. I'm talking really internally. I'm just talking about my own personal shit.
Has it's been useful, or it's outlived it's overgrown its usefulness?
I'm trying to let go of certain things I probably don't need to use anymore. And it's look, even this conversation is really useful in that it is a reminder of the struggle is the movie.
Yeah.
You need to be burning to answer the question to make the movie. And if you've already answered the question, there is no movie.
Yeah. You're welcome.
That's why we come here, right?
Well, Jason, we're all rooting for you.
Nobody is rooting for you.